Okay, I should ought to be live. As you can see, I got the camera set up over by the cook stove. The kettle's boiling merrily along. Got the fire going nice. Gonna make a little supper. Gonna make some ring bologna and sauerkraut. I just got done canning up a batch of sauerkraut this weekend. Had a couple of jars that didn't seal. Been a long time since I had jars that didn't seal, but you do get them every now and then. So I got those sitting there ready to go with the bologna. And we'll get ourselves underway here. I gotta swing my mic around, so there's probably gonna be some noise. Don't worry about that too much. Reach it out a little bit. There we go. Move myself on over. Move me over to the stove. Okay. And we'll bring the camera down a little bit so you can see better what's going on. And again, I got to try and remember not to talk at the camera. Try and speak towards my microphone over there. Hopefully everybody can hear me all right. Can ya? In the meantime, I'll say hi to Raymond, Cynthia Wesley, R.T. Scott, Dan, Rocketeer was here, Billy Lee Lawhan, nice to see you. I got to wait a little bit here for the chat to catch up. A little bit of a delay on the chat and everything. And I got to grab myself a hot pad. Always got to be something you forget when you do this. Now, ring bologna is not to be confused with the lunch meat, big slices of bologna, Oscar Mayer type of stuff. Although some of the store-bought ring bologna you get is the real fine emulsified type of bologna that your usual lunch meat bologna is. But real homemade ring bologna is a lot more like Polish sausage, Polska kielbasa. It's a lot coarser texture to it, and it's really good. Usually it's smoked, and the ones you get in the supermarket are usually a little bit more finely ground than a homemade one like this. I got this from my local meat guy. He makes real good sausage, but the ones you get in the grocery store are all right, but you're usually better off sticking with the kielbasa if you're going to make something like this at home. But if you can get a hold of a good homemade ring bologna from your favorite meat market, you're going to love it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stab this a little bit. Just poke a few little vent holes in it so that some of the juice and the fat can cook out of it as we cook it. And I'm going to be using a nice enameled Birmingham stove and range chicken fryer that used to be my mother-in-law's. We'll get that set over here and we'll start warming that up. Robin Eagle songs here. Good to see you, Robin. I'm away from the computer, so I can't scroll back if I missed anybody, but hi to one and all. Got my fire going good, burning right along, so this shouldn't take too long. What I'm going to do, once my pan gets good and warm, is I'm going to brown this up a little bit. You can just boil them, or you can put this in a baking dish with the sauerkraut and just put the whole works in the oven and bake it. There's a lot of different ways of doing this. What I'm going to do is kind of brown it up a little bit, give it a little bit of a sear, then put my sauerkraut in, move it over, let it simmer for a while, and hopefully everything will be happy and good. All right, we're starting to get warm. Where'd my butter go? Yeah, it's a nice old chicken fryer. She used it for years and years and years. And I ended up inheriting it. Get a little bit of that melting in there. Don't need a whole lot, just enough to keep things from sticking when you first start to sear it. Yeah, maybe just a little more. And we'll slide that off. She's a little bit hot right there. Like I said before, the trick with cooking on a stovetop wood stove like this is you got to move your pans around to different temperatures because it's going to be hottest right over the fire. It'll be cooler over here. So you got to pay attention and just keep moving your pan around till you get the right temperature. Now, we'll just put that in. And I'm just going to brown it up a bit. I'm not going to really cook it all the way through. But you can see it's starting to sizzle in the pan. Maybe a little farther over that way. Grab my tongs. I'm going to keep it kind of moving around a little bit so it doesn't, so that the skin doesn't stick to the pan. You have stuff called Lebanon bologna, like summer sausage, but a regular bologna. That does sound pretty good. I found I'll have to scroll back through the comments a bit and catch up once I get back over to the computer. But you see that seared up pretty quick. She's a little bit cool there, but we'll get her here where she's a little hotter. Come on now, I know you're going to warm up more than that. Well, that's cooking a little bit. I think I will duck over and grab a couple of finds that I found this week. Set them over here. Around good. I found a couple of things at Goodwill's. Found the light kind of blows them out. They're a light turquoise blue. They're salt and pepper grinders. And these ones are electric. You just push the button and they grind right away. They're pretty slick. They were $4 a piece. I couldn't pass them up. I used to usually grind my own pepper, but my old pepper grinder went to hell, and I haven't bothered replacing it for a couple, 3 years. So those are pretty slick. And let's see here. How are we doing there? I'll let that brown up just a little bit more. And a really cool find. Most of you will be able to recognize this just by that little bit there, which is the first thing I noticed when I was sitting on the shelf. But that is a number 8 Iron Mountain skillet. Iron Mountain was a discount brand that Griswold made in the 30s and 40s. You can spot them real easy because they have a unique shape to the handle. It's kind of a oblong rectangular end on it rather than the usual teardrop shape. But most people have caught on that these are actually made by Griswold. They're real thin, real light. It's not quite as obvious from this side. Some of them are a little more pronounced, that shape, but that shape of handle is distinctive. You'll notice it right away. And it has a 4-digit catalog number and a size number. The chicken fryers say chicken pan on them, and all of the lettering and numbers on them are kind of italicized. They got a little slant to them. So they're pretty easy to spot if you see them out in the wild. And this, hopefully I can get through where you can see it. No, maybe not. But anyway, I paid $5.99 for that, which is amazing because they usually go for about 10 or 12 times that price. So I was definitely thrilled to find that sitting on the shelf at the Goodwill. Anyway, I think we sizzled up nice on that side. Let's get warm enough and eat the hot pad. But you can see she's seared up a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll move this over where it's a little bit cooler on the stove, and I will add my sauerkraut. Swirl that around. Maybe just a little bit warm there yet. Add my sauerkraut, cover it up, and we'll let that simmer for a while. Let it get some good sauerkraut goodness work through that meat, and that'll be really nice. Like I said, you can just put that in the oven if you want, and with or without searing it, and just bake it for half hour, 45 minutes. Let me duck under my camera. I'll grab my microphone. I'll get back by the computer for a little bit, and I'll check on that occasional. Did I make the sauerkraut? Yes, that's homemade sauerkraut that I made. I make pretty good sauerkraut. Whoops. Let me get backed up on the comments here and see if I can catch up a little bit. Scroll through quick. I'll probably put my glasses on so I can see. You can see that that Wagner kettle that I cleaned up and repolished. It's got a little bit of watermarks on it now. Been using it on the cook stove since I finished it. I'll have to polish it back up when I'm done heating for the season. Let's see. Hi, everybody. Randy Duffy, good to see you. Rocket Caver, Bookworm, Dan, Chris Salverson, Debbie. Kind of scroll through all the highs. Raymond found a Wagner breakfast skillet for $10. Oh, that's a good deal. They usually go for anywhere from 50 to 75. I've seen them sell for. I've got one breakfast skillet. It's an unmarked one. I'm not sure if it's an import. I kind of think it is. It's pretty decent quality, though. It could be a Lodge or a BSR, but like I said, I'm fairly sure it's imported, but it's a pretty decent one. Cast Iron Restore. Good to see you. This episode is baloney. It most certainly is. Let's see. I said hi to Robin, Corey Clark, Rob York. Might have said hi to everybody. But anyway, if you're here, hi. Granny Graham. Nice to see you. Let's see. It's like got lucky. The tornado line is east of you now into Iowa. Yeah, we had a big blizzard here Friday night. Got better than a foot of snow and 50 mile an hour winds to push it around. And there's another storm coming through tonight, but it's passing a bit to the north of us, so most of the snow is going to stay to the north and west of us here. But we're going to get rain all night, which will be kind of nice and knock some of that snow down. Gregory Green found a 12-inch Dutch oven for $50. That's a good price. Usually kind of the generic price for a number 8 Dutch oven with a lid is around 40. Around there, $40 or so is what you usually see them paid for. But yeah, $50 for a bigger one like that is a real good deal. Your brides from South Milwaukee, best sausages you ever had were from Usinger's. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of real good meat markets. There's places that are well known for their different sausages, bratwurst, summer sausage, things like that. Found a Wagnerware Sydney O drip drop patent pending aluminum roaster. So before the patent was granted in 1917, I think. Yeah, a lot of people, they know about Magnolite, which was a brand of aluminum that Wagner Ware made from about the mid 30s on. But actually, Wagner made cast aluminum ware pretty much from the start of the company back in it was 1892 when they started. And they've made cast aluminum pretty much right from the start. So it's pretty kind of interesting. Griswold started making cast iron pretty early, or cast aluminum pretty early too. I'm not exactly sure when, but I think it was in the 1890s as well. Dad won some bologna at a turkey shoot around 7 at the time. I think you finished that roll when you were 10. Got sick of it, even the smell. Yeah, ring bologna isn't, like I said, it's not like, the regular Oscar Mayer lunch meat bologna. It's a lot closer to Polska kielbasa or Italian sausage. It's a lot rougher cut, coarser grind to it. Let's see. Yeah, it is a nice old BSR. It's a Century series. If I remember right, Birmingham Stove and Range didn't do their own enameling. They sent them out to a different company to be enameled. And most of the BSR enamel where you see is that kind of olive green. But there's also a speckled one, I think is yellow with red specks. Or it might be, yeah, I think it's yellow with red specks. And I'd like to get hold of one or two of them. Chris is making some smoked chili on a Dutch oven in the grill. That sounds good. Good luck on your surgery, Rob. I must have missed something here. Oh, you're having knee surgery 7 o'clock tomorrow. Well, yeah, I hope that goes good for you. Did I make the sauerkraut? Yeah, I already mentioned that. Susan M., a new member. Well, thank you for joining, Susan. Hopefully got a couple of videos planned that I'm just about ready to start making. And you can at least get a little bit of benefit out of your membership. Because members you get to see when I actually do make videos, you'll get to see them a couple of days earlier than everybody else. And I got to set up another giveaway here pretty soon. I gave away a round griddle as part of the Pies of March collaboration. And we had a drawing at the end of that, and I donated a griddle to that, so that's kind of nice. Make a little bit more room. Now it's finally getting warm in Virginia. Horrible last night. Storm going to be 4 more days. Yeah, the whole storm systems runs pretty much from Canada to Louisiana. Been finally using your Griswold breakfast skillet. Really like it. Yeah, they're handy. I mean, you can do your bacon and eggs all in one pan and not get too much grease on one or the other. I'm going to check on my stuff here. I can smell that sauerkraut. Here quick. Need to get her just a little bit warmer on the spot. Had to steal a little sauerkraut. Yeah, it's going to be real good. Once I get settled back in over here, once that's done cooking, I'll show you my sauerkraut jar that I use. I think I've shown it before. but I'll show you that. If you can make your own sauerkraut, it's really good. It's a lot better than anything you can get in the store because it's fermented all the way through, and that's what gives you the flavor. Where most commercial sauerkraut, they'll let it ferment for a little while just to give it some flavor, and then they basically pickle it with vinegar. So it's more pickled cabbage than it is actual fermented sauerkraut. And I like to cut mine a fair bit thicker than the store bought stuff. What am I cooking? Trail bologna? Yeah, that's ring bologna. I suppose trail bologna you might call it. Let's see here. You like brats, but something has changed in the recipe on Johnsonville. Yeah, I haven't had any Johnsonville brats in a while. They used to be really good. There's some other brands out there that aren't nearly as good, but I'll have to get some and try them out, see if they change something. Found 2 pounds of mushrooms last Sunday. We're a long way from foraging for mushrooms or anything else in the woods around here. Raised the price and took away from the product. Yeah. Can you make your own bologna? The really emulsified bologna, like I said, the Oscar Mayer bologna sandwich meat is emulsified, and you need a machine to do that. So that's more of a factory sort of thing. But ring bologna, you can definitely make that at home. Oh, you're watching the Mennonite farmhouse video before you got here. Yeah, it's a nice Wagner ware #9 griddle. I got a couple of them, so I figured I could part with one. What's a good price for a Martin stove and range #7 skillet? Uh, Martins usually go for pretty good prices. So I would, for a #7, I would guess anywhere from 60 to 80 would probably be what they usually sell for. I know some of the like #8s and #9s usually go for 100 or so or better. But #7's a little bit smaller, not as common. So that might affect the price too. But I would guess around $80. It's kind of a guess. Let's see here. What do you use to clean the pans with? Just regular dish soap or? Yeah, I usually it depends if there's anything stuck to it. If I had just fried some eggs or something like that, usually all you need to do is pour off your extra grease and wipe them down really good. But if they need a bit of a washing, just hot water and a little bit of dish detergent. And I use a stainless steel scrubbing pad, give them a light little scrubbing to knock anything off them that's stuck. Then when you're done washing them, dry them on the top of your stove, on medium heat, and wipe them down with some oil. You want to get all the water off them, warm them up, and re-oil them. And that works just fine. $75. Yeah, that sounds about right for a Martin. Your #9 is all over the pricing map. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, sometimes you'll see things sell for a huge price, and then the same thing will sell the next day for half as much. But that's just kind of the way it is, especially with auctions. You get a couple of people that want the same thing, get a little bidding war going. You don't use dish soap? Oh, you don't have to, but that's what I usually do. The one thing you really don't want to do is put them in a dishwasher because they will rust because it stays hot and wet in there, and it really, it'll rust them bad real fast by the time you get them out of there. I had Johnsonville brats with bacon. Not sure if a regular thing. Yeah, I've never seen them, so I don't think they're. They might be a kind of limited run thing. Chainmail. Yeah, a lot of people use use the chainmail scrubbers. Passed on a Martin for a cheap price, but the logo is almost worn away. Yeah, if there's a lot of pitting on the back or where where you can't really see them, you don't want to spend too much for them, but it's still a good pan to cook with if it's a good price. Yeah, just scroll down to where can I put them in your dishwasher? No, that's the one thing you can't do with them. There's a lot of myths about cleaning cast iron. Most of them are pretty harmless. Some people, they'll only scrub them down with a half a potato and coarse salt, and that doesn't hurt anything. But yeah, putting them in the dishwasher is one true thing you don't want to do. Some people say to never wash them. Well, you can. I mean, detergent isn't like the old-fashioned lye soap, which could actually strip off seasoning if it had too much lye residue in it. But detergents won't do that. Okay, I'm going to check on my stuff again. Should be just about done. I'm going to move it over where it's hotter. See what my fire is doing. Oh yeah, my fire settled down pretty quick on me. So warm up. I just want that to simmer for a bit. Just want her to simmer for a bit and cook through all the way. But she wasn't quite simmering fast enough. Let's see. Not entirely sure what you're trying to get off the pan. Yeah, does it have a lot of buildup? Oh, me and you Acres are here. Nice to see you guys. You got a number 12 BSR Century that has a little spin to it, using it for your farm school kitchen right now in BC. What would a skillet like that sell for, out of curiosity? Bigger skillets have been going for pretty strong prices lately. Something like that, even with a little bit of a spin, I would guess around 100 to 125. Maybe a bit less. I mean, you might be able to find them cheaper than that, but generally anything bigger than a number 10 has been selling for between 100 and 150, unless it's an old Griswold or a Wagner with the heat ring before 1935. Those are going a lot more than that, depending on the size. I just saw a number 11 Griswold slant logo Erie that sold for about $250. So it's it's kind of hard to say exactly what it'll go for, but 100 to 125 wouldn't be really out of line. Did a deep dive on Dawn Power Wash. Don't clean your cast iron, penetrates the seasoning and stays in it, but does work well for a final cleaning after you restore a pan. Yeah, I use just regular dish detergent, not necessarily. I don't use the Dawn Power Wash. I use whatever's cheap usually. First time you see me go live in a long time, so I figured get lots of questions out. Well, go ahead. That's what we're here for. If I don't know something, it's a safe bet somebody in the audience does, because there's a lot of clever people that come together and chit chat around there. Why do they call it chainmail? Because it is. There's different ones on the market. Lodge makes one. They're little interlinked rings, just like the old chainmail armor from the Middle Ages. Yeah, like a knight's armor. You'd see a lot of them where it was a hood. The knights would wear over their head to keep from getting stabbed and poked and shot with arrows. And they work real nice for scrubbing. Got your no notch 14 out of the live bath a few days ago. Discovered a fine crack by the handle. Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, you can tap them to see if they ring when you're checking them out, and usually that'll let you know if there's a crack. But sometimes even then, it'll still ring good. But once you get it stripped, you'll find a real fine hairline in it. Wild as your meat gets his pork chops. So yeah, it's kind of always a bit of a disappointment. But if you got it fairly cheap, it's not too bad. You can still use a crack pan, but there's a risk of the crack running and getting bigger and longer. Let's see, I can hear my fire crackling along, so let me double check my stuff here. I don't want to leave it too long and end up burning something. Yeah, we're picking up good there. Flip that over. Sauerkraut is good, but burnt sauerkraut isn't. You have chainmail gloves for when you butcher deer or elk. Yeah, a lot of meat plants make you wear chainmail gloves so you don't cut yourself. Yeah, it rang fine. Yeah, once in a while you get that, like I said, real fine hairline, and it'll still ring good. But usually you can tell if it's got a significant crack. It'll have a little bit of a dull sound to it or a buzzy noise. But every now and then they'll still get past you. Any pointers on setting up an electrolysis tank? Well, you need to use a manual battery charger because there's not enough load on it for an automatic charger to work. Don't use stainless steel. I know some people do, and it worked well for them. I used it, and it ended up making hexavalent chrome, which is something you don't want. Something you don't want to have. It's a nasty carcinogen and pollutant. So I don't use stainless steel. I know some people have tried them and they test for the chrome in their bath, and it worked out fine for them. But I don't recommend using stainless steel for the electrodes. Other than that, there's a lot of different things you can use for a tank. Usually something plastic or non-conductive, but you can use a steel tank and use the tank itself as the electrode, and that works out fairly well as long as it isn't galvanized, because you don't want to you don't want the zinc in your bath, because it'll turn it green. It'll look nasty. Zinc isn't terribly harmful necessarily, but you don't really need it floating around. Use a 10 amp DC power supply. Works great. Yeah, they work great. You want around 10 amps, works pretty good, for a single pan. Higher amperage if you can get like a 40 amp 12 volt battery charger. Those work nice because you can get more current density. It's basically how many amps per square inch of surface area, and the more amps you get, the faster it'll work. And if you're going to have more than one pan in there, a little higher power works good. But for the most part, yeah, 10 amps is a great plenty. Yeah, more cooking shows. Yeah, I'll probably do some more cooking. You know, maybe get one or two more. Uh, get a couple more on the wood cook stove, and then do some other stuff back on my other stove because it's warming up. I need a fire every now and then in here. It's kind of surprising, as drafty as this old house is. It actually holds heat pretty good. So when it starts getting around 30, like it is this time of year, 30 to 40 most of the time, I really only need a fire every other day or so because the place holds heat pretty good. In the near future. Also, I think I'm going to do, I see Cast Iron Chaos on his last live stream. Audience is asking him if he's going to make a lamb cake. I've got a cast iron lamb cake mold coming. It's not here yet, but I have that rabbit cake mold. And I think what I'll do is I'll make a rabbit cake with that, and I'll wait until he's got his video put up because I don't want to look like I'm stealing the idea from him. Not that it's all that big of a deal, but once he gets his lamb cake video up, I'll probably put up a rabbit cake. He lost an auction bid on number 4 this week. Yeah. Where did I see that? I saw a number. It wasn't on the Goodwill site. It was on another auction site. It was a nice little number 4 Wagner that went fairly cheap, but it was kind of rough. I mean, there was a fair bit of sulfur pitting on the back of it. Yeah, we'll fire up. I have that aluminum rabbit cake mold. I'll show you that again here once I get settled back in. But I think my stuff should probably be pretty close to done. I'll check her one more time here, see how it's doing. Hope you mean a rabbit cake as a dessert. Yeah, it'll be a chocolate rabbit cake. But it's pretty cool little mold. We'll see how it turns out with that. Yeah, I'm going to check my stuff again. Yeah, that's what I like to see. But I think I can probably call this done. I'm going to move this over here. Let's see here. Get a couple of things out of the way. I gotta grab a knife. I didn't grab myself a knife. I got too many things in my own way. We'll move him over there. Let's cut a little slice off this. Hold that up. Hopefully you can see that's a little bright. But hopefully you can see it's fairly coarsely ground and it's really tasty. Especially cooking it in the sauerkraut like that. Get a little bit of that sauerkraut. The meat picks up the sauerkraut flavor. The sauerkraut picks up the meat juice. The whole thing is just delicious. I'm going to set this aside over here where it'll stay warm. And when I'm done with the show, I'll have myself some supper. Let's see here. There we go. That should stay nice and warm over there until I'm ready to eat. I'm going to move my camera back and get back in my chair. So I'll shut you off so you don't get seasick moving around. And try and wrestle my stand around. Oops. Running into stuff. Almost got it. And I've got to turn that light off. Almost there. Almost. Really engaging content with all the nice dead air and darkness. But I gotta flip my camera around the other direction. There we go. Just about there. There we are. Move my water bottle. Okay. Anyway, you can do a lot of different things with ring bologna like that. You can cut it up into little slices and brown them up, and serve it with scrambled eggs, something like that. It's really good that way. But cooking it with sauerkraut is really tasty. Like I said, you get the meat juice in there into the sauerkraut, and you get the sauerkraut juice into the meat, and just let it simmer for a while, and it cooks up real nice. Makes a real nice supper. But oh yeah, I was gonna hang on here. Put him. It's right here the whole time. There we go. I showed you guys this when I first got it. That's my bunny mold. That's a genuine cast luster loom ware. It says bunny cake down on the bottom. That's cast aluminum. I got it cheap. I got this and something else for I was the only one that bid on them. Got them for like $8 a piece. This one, I don't know if you can quite see that. Manufactured by Plastic and Industry. So yeah, that's who made it. That's a pretty cool little rabbit shaped cake you get out of it. Yeah, I think I'll make me a rabbit cake here pretty soon. What are some good auction sites for cast iron? There's a lot of local auction sites. You can check those out. Shopgoodwill.com is a pretty good one. They have a lot of different stuff. It's Goodwills from all across America. They post on this one site that handles the sales, and then they'll ship them out from wherever the Goodwill is that listed it. They're pretty good. eBay is okay, as long as you know what you're looking for and what you're looking at. eBay can be kind of a problem sometimes, but if you know how to play the eBay game, you can usually do fairly well. All you've seen this week was Pioneer Woman brand. I like the Pioneer Woman design, but the quality just isn't that great. It's kind of it's usually pretty rough. Not the best made stuff, but I like the designs of them. It's kind of a shame. It's like Paula Deen. I've seen a few Paula Deen things in real life and a lot for sale on different places. A lot of them got real pretty designs, real nicely designed stuff. but I haven't come across one yet that wasn't at least twice as heavy as what it needed to be. The stuff is just brutally heavy. I found an aluminum lamb mold, but never run across a cast iron one. The cast iron ones are kind of spendy. I mean, they're not uncommon, but they typically sell for 80 to $100. Or a marked Griswold one will sell for more. But you're probably going to spend for you're looking around $100 for a cast iron lamb mold. There's also rabbit molds. I know Griswold made a rabbit mold; those sell for pretty good money. There's also fake ones of those out there, so you gotta kind of look out for that. But yeah, you want a lamb mold, but you can't determine if it's a reproduction or not. There are some of the fake lamb molds out there too. They're not quite as many as the rabbits and the Santa Claus molds. There's a lot of fakes of those around. So you'll definitely want to do some research on them before you start spending big money on them. Yeah, let's see here. Just about caught back up. Yeah, it's not about stealing ideas. Yeah, I'm not too worried about it, but he kind of mentioned it first, so I'll let him get his video up first, and then I'll do my post the rabbit. I know some of the rabbit molds, the lettering, the Griswold one, the rabbit is sitting up, but it's got the kind of little tabs like that, and on the original ones, the lettering is even, and it's got a even margin around it. A lot of the fakes, it's kind of misaligned, rough looking lettering, and the lettering kind of runs out to the edge. Where this has solid tabs, the rabbit molds, it got kind of a tab on one side, then a loop on the other half of the mold, and that's where they're marked Griswold. But I'm sure there's other fakes out there too. So something like that is best if you can actually look at it in person, because if it doesn't look right, it probably isn't. If it's really rough casting, it's probably not a Griswold. If the lettering doesn't look right, if it kind of runs off the edge or it's really uneven, generally you can tell the fakes because they're a lot lower quality than the originals. And with the Santa Claus cake molds, on the real ones, Santa has his tongue sticking out. You can see his tongue, and most of them, but not all of them, have a casting flaw on the bag that Santa's holding over his shoulder, and the fakes don't have that. But some of the real ones don't have that either. Have I ever had Hassenpfeffer? No, I haven't had Hassenpfeffer, but I do make good sauerbraten, which is basically a pickled beef roast with you make a gravy out of it, you thicken it with crushed up ginger snaps. That's really good. Let's see. You've seen some, but the price was so made you wonder. Yeah, if it's really cheap, there's a fair chance that it's not real. I saw 2 Pioneer Women. Hope they're still in the store this weekend. Will be great starters for your nieces. Yeah, I mean, they're a little bit rough. They can take a bit of seasoning. If you're gonna give them to your nieces for starters, I'd use them a few times yourself first, Cynthia. Make sure they're broke in good, because if you got something that if you give them something that's going to be really hard to work with, some of the cheap cast iron can be, you're going to put them off using cast iron if it's going to give them a headache. A lot of even the roughest, grainiest cast iron can be made to work, but it takes a bit of effort and a bit of know-how to get them seasoned up right, get them to where they're actually something useful. But if you can get them cheap, and like I said, give them a try yourself first, and if they work good, then go ahead and give them to your nieces for starters. Because they're inexpensive. I mean, you can get them cheap. Like I said, I like the design of them. They got a pretty decent design. You got your iron lamb mold for $50, but I've seen them for $300. Yeah, some of the Wagner lamb molds aren't usually marked. They look a little bit different than the Griswolds, but not much. It's kind of hard to tell them apart. But usually the unmarked ones do go a bit cheaper. They'll go for around 75, sometimes as low as 50. But the marked ones, you're getting more into the $100 and up range for those. So, like I said, a genuine Wagner lamb mold, for $50 is a good deal because they probably sell for 75 or 80 usually. And usually, if they're going to make a reproduction, they're not going to make an unmarked reproduction. I mean, they're going to make it look like a expensive brand name like a Griswold. So if it's unmarked and it looks like it's good quality, it's probably genuine. It's more, if it's an unmarked lamb mold, it's more likely a Wagner, and it's probably a real one. Because like I say, there's no sense in making a fake of something and not bothering to mark it as something you're trying to pass it off as. Reminds me of your late grandparents' house. Had a coal wood fireplace, tin bath, outside toilet. At least live in the countryside. Yeah, I got indoor plumbing, which is nice, but there's nothing like wood heat. I mean, it's a lot cheaper. It's a bit of a mess. It's a lot of work, but it's just that massive radiant heat. Nothing really keeps you warm like wood does. A lady in your cooking group has cast iron glass candy molds from the 1800s. Makes every year for Easter. Yeah, that sounds really, really cool. Your husband brought home what he thought was a Griswold lamb mold, but it looked more like a stray dog. Yeah, there are some kind of ugly ones out there. They're number 6 for such little hands, 10 and 11 years old. Will they still be okay? Yeah, they should be. Smaller pan for smaller kids makes sense. What do you do with water after? How long can you use it? Uh, Generally, you can just pour the water down your drain. It's there'll be some rust in it, which isn't a problem. Washing soda, that's not a pollutant of any sort in the water. As long as, like I say, you don't use stainless steel to where you're getting, toxic waste. But generally, it's just like a live bath. You can flush it down your drain. It's not a problem. Uh, you can set it up outside. That's where I set mine up, is out on my deck. You might want to put a little cover over it to keep excess rainwater from getting in there and overflowing it if you get a big downpour. But other than that, using it outside is just fine out on your deck. And yeah, the a live bath and the liquid from and the water from a electrolysis bath are safe to pour down the drains. How long it'll last? Usually it works. I use the same bath all summer. I have to dump it in the fall when it starts to freeze up, but you can probably use it a bit longer than that. Might need to add a little bit more washing soda once in a while, but I've never had that sort of a problem. Generally, all summer long, it'll last you. Same with a live bath. Just big and cheap enough for a few lessons, get a few burns, learn to wait, etc. Have you ever seen a cast iron cat mold? Not that I recall. I mean, there might be. I wouldn't be surprised if like John Wright made something. They made a lot of different baking pans. How do you get the rabbit to hold together? Toothpicks? No, you just you fill the bottom half of the mold up with your cake batter, and you put the top half on, and you bake it, and it rises as it bakes, and it'll fill the top half, and then you just open it up and put it out on a plate. Then the rabbit, I mean, it's the only thin spot on this one anyway is this ear might be a little fragile, but not really. I mean, it's pretty well attached to everything else, so this shouldn't be any problem with that. With a lamb, if you want them to sit up straight, I mean, the head might be a little bit floppy and easy to break off. Like with a lamb mold or a rabbit that was sitting up straight, I might take a bamboo skewer and kind of run it down through the poor critter's head to keep things anchored well. But yeah, a rabbit like this, shouldn't be too much of a problem with him being delicate. Yeah, cat molds. I don't know. I haven't seen any, but there might be something out there. The fake animal molds. The Griswold name is all up and down instead of straight. Yeah, the lettering kind of wanders, and it wanders off the edge of the little loop where the lettering is. Finally warm enough in North Carolina to start the electrolysis tank. Yeah, I still got a ton of snow on my deck. It's going to be another good month or so before I can fire up the electrolysis tank outside. Never had Haas and Pfeffer. I think I did a long time ago. I don't really remember. Yeah, the dog is starting to get all wound up. Your wife made it for you, and neither liked us too strong, and she's an excellent cook. What's this Haas and Pfeffer everybody's talking about? Peppered rabbit, basically, is what it means in German. It's a German dish. German rabbit dish. Rabbit braised in red wine vinegar. But if you ever, I have videos on my channel somewhere making sauerbraten, and that is really good. Like I say, it's basically a pickled beef roast. You take a round roast, pot roast, something like that. You put it in a Ziploc bag with spices and vinegar and green onions. Leave it soak in your fridge for about 5 days, a week or so, and then you roast it like a pot roast with your vegetables and such. And then just before it's done, you take a half a dozen or so ginger snap cookies and you just crumble them up and you mix it in with the gravy, the juices from the pan and a little bit of your pickling juice, and it thickens it. It's really cool. It makes a really nice stuff. It's good. But something like that you want to do in an enameled pan, because just bare cast iron, something that acidic, really tends to strip a lot of your seasoning off, and you get black stuff in your juice. So you don't want to do that. It wouldn't hurt you, but it looks nasty. Use a 55-gallon plastic drum with rebar with washing soda. Pour it out in your bushes. Minerals are good for it. Yeah, it's not toxic, but you end up, the electrolysis bath, it's non-toxic. I wouldn't want to drink it. It'd probably give you a nasty case of diarrhea. But other than that, it's pretty harmless. Rabbit stew, yeah. I have an old used water heater. Would that work for electrolysis? Probably take a good bit of work. You'd have to cut the tank in half so you can actually get in and out of it. I don't know how good the electrode would work. The heating element, if you tried to use that for your electrode, I'm not sure how long that would hold up. It might be something, of course you can always just put your positive lead right on the tank itself if it's a metal tank. A lot of them are lined though, so it might work. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Found a number 6 Griswold Dutch oven with a lid last week, and a number 10 skillet lid, and a number 6 griddles. Why are the number 6 Griswold Dutch ovens and griddles so expensive? They're fairly scarce. They didn't make a whole lot of them to begin with, and there's a lot that didn't survive. And it's an oddball size. Most Dutch ovens you see are number 8s, number 10, And, number 8 is by far the most common. I mean, that's probably 85-90% of the Dutch ovens out there are number 8s. The bigger ones you're going to pay more for, and number 6 is really scarce. I mean, you don't see them very often. So they do get a lot higher price for them just because they're scarce. And the same with the griddles. Most of the griddles were number 8, number 9. The handle griddles, especially, were mostly 8s and 9s. The smaller number 6s, you hardly ever see anything like that. Yeah, you find a food grade drum for 35 new. Cut the top off with a sawzall and drill holes in the top for the rebar. Yeah, they're not hard to build. There's a lot of ways you can do it. Find it like it's cheap battery charger. It has to be a manual charger because the automatic chargers read how much of a load what you're doing is drawing if you're charging a battery. So as the battery charges, it draws less and less power, and the automatic chargers will put less and less power out. An electrolysis tank doesn't draw enough power. The battery charger thinks it's hooked up to a fully charged battery, and it shuts itself off, is what it does. I haven't tried it yet, but some people say you can put a battery in the circuit, hook the battery up to your electrolysis tank, and hook the charger to the battery. And as it draws the battery down, the charger it's enough of a load on the charger to make the charger work. I haven't actually tried it yet, but I hear that's the way you can get around that, because it's kind of tough to use. Kind of tough to find sometimes. Just cheap little manual battery chargers, because California requires that you have an automatic charger because they've had fires, huge wildfires started by some idiot with a manual battery charger, plugged it in and forgot about it for a week, set his garage on fire, and burnt down half the state. So that's why we can't have nice things. Can you use a fence charger? No, that's a whole different sort of thing. Fence chargers put out a pulse of real high voltage, low amperage current, and it wouldn't work at all for an electrolysis tank. You need a higher amperage. You only need 6 or 12 volts, but you need a decent amperage, and it has to be a steady output. Like I said, fence chargers, they put out a high voltage charge like a spark plug, like the coil on a car. Firing a spark plug, it's the same sort of thing. There's no real amperage behind it, but there's a lot of voltage. So you get a big zap without killing you or your animals. You can also get a power supply from Amazon. Yeah, the power supplies work pretty good too. Yeah, if you found a base for your waffle iron, you wouldn't know how to use it. Yeah, it's most of your waffle irons you can use without a base right on the burner. Some of the Wagner ones can be kind of tough because they have the ball for the hinge, but it's just it's just split flat in the middle, and they don't really lock together, so they can kind of come apart on you when you pick it up to flip it over, unless you grab both sides. Where the Griswolds, there's kind of a cut inside of there where they won't slip past each other as easy. You have 3 small battery charges. I think one of them will work. Some rebar left. Yeah, you should be able to set one up pretty easy. You can make a small one in like a plastic tote. Those work good for electrolysis tanks too. Up to maybe the 15, 20 gallon size. You start getting bigger than that, the weight of the water is too much for the tote, and the tote deforms. They're kind of a pain, but up to like 10, 15 gallons for a plastic tote will work. Plastic tubs, plastic stock tanks, things like that. I've got a 65-gallon plastic stock tank that I use, and those work real good. Old lawnmower blades for the electrodes. Yeah, pretty much any plain iron or steel, as long as it isn't galvanized, isn't chrome plated, isn't stainless steel. Pretty much any any old bits and pieces of steel or iron you got laying around will work good for the anodes. Well, cathodes actually. Yeah, they'd be an anode. But anyhow, we've been at this for a little bit more than an hour. I'm gonna enjoy my supper. If you can find some decent ring bologna, give that a try. You'll brown them up a little bit. Throw your sauerkraut on, let it simmer for a while. If you can't find good ring bologna, Polish sausage is pretty close, and Polish sausage is good all by itself anyway. So I'm going to turn you guys loose, and I'll see you next week. And yeah, that's about all I got for right now. Hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye. And end here.